Hello, party people. Okay, so I have been putting off making this video, and I have both not had time to just sit in my car and make a video, and also have just like not really felt like it was the right time. This is like the perfect time to do it because I am leaving in 3 days to start my adventure towards Minnesota. I am sure that there's a lot of people that are confused as to why I'm moving to Minnesota, what I'm going to be doing there, and why the heck I'm going just in time for an ice cold winter. This story that I'm going to share with you is kind of like a testimony, just like a story time, I guess, to explain where I've been for the past like 3 months, and also like kind of where I'm going for the next hopefully 3+ years. So yeah, so I guess I'll start with the story kind of, I guess, let's see, I want to make this video less than like 10 minutes because I feel like that is helpful to y'all. I just want to kind of share where I was before the summer, kind of what the summer looked like, and kind of where I'm going after the summer. So the summer story starts honestly back in November of 2018, and when I was in my senior year of college, I of course had the question, what's next? And so I really had no clue, because honestly my life was falling apart, and I will get to that and kind of talk about like what that looks like, because senior year was a doozy. November of my senior year, so like first semester, I had applied for a job. I like had gone to a concert in St. Louis, and then obviously I'm a social work major, so I typed in St. Louis social work major, and then this job pops up called YouthWorks, and I had never ever heard of YouthWorks, and I was like, what's that? Let me click on it. I looked at the YouthWorks job, and it was for YouthWorks site director, and so the first question was, what is YouthWorks? So I go on their website, I look, and I'm like, this looks very, like, I had no clue, I had no context for what this job was, had never heard of it. And then the more I researched, the more I'm like, okay, so this is like a mission organization. I still don't know how to explain it to my friends, so I look more on their website. Looks pretty cool, so I apply for the site director position. And then honestly, I applied on like a Sunday night, and then like Monday or Tuesday someone called me and was just like, hey, we got your application. I was like, all right, cool. Let me backtrack and kind of explain what YouthWorks is, because I feel like most people in my life don't actually know. It's a multi-denominational Christian organization based in Minneapolis, and what they do is like, their audience is like high school and middle school students, and so that what they do is it kind of runs like a camp, in the sense of like every week of the summer a church group can come in, and then they'll stay at your site. So like I was placed in Chicago for like 8 weeks, and we had pretty much like 10 weeks, but we had like 8 weeks of programming. And so what that looked like is the different churches would come in for a week. They would come on Sunday, leave on Friday, and we would lead them through like different organizations, we worked with Catholic Charities, we worked with like different food pantries, we worked with a children's program, and so whatever like the community that we are staying in like needs, we just do like different service projects for them. And so that's kind of the short gist of what I did this summer. So that's that. I don't know how to explain that better, but oh well, for the sake of the video, that's the brief explanation. Anyway, so yeah, so 20 days later I have a job for YouthWorks, and I'm like, cool. I still don't know what this is, but I'm just like, okay God, like sure, I'll go do this. And that is not necessarily the mentality that I had in all of this, because senior year I was going through it. I've struggled with a lot of things, like mental health, like with regards to mental health, and throughout my life there's just been like many different like struggles that I've had, whether it be whatever it be. And so senior year I was going through a lot, and this is actually like a lot, some people know about this, but like a lot of people don't. And so when I was like 14 in high school, ooh, we're going back, well, I developed just like disordered eating is what we'll call it. I like don't really know why that all started, and like kind of where my life was in high school, like just it was high school, I was 14, and just had gone through a lot, like losing my mom and just like stuff like that. There was a lot in those years that probably made sense as to why I kind of like developed this habit. And like kind of when I developed that disordered eating, it came and went. And so in stages, it was like, oh, freshman year of high school, like, and then like junior year of high school, it kind of got really bad. And then come to college, I pretty much thought I was over it. So like, I knew going into college, like senior year was a totally different story. If you know that story. Oopsie, someone called me. But oops. Anyway, so back to the story. So I go to college and like all over the place. Long story short, I developed disordered eating when I was like 14. Then it kind of just like came and went in stages. And once I got to college, I thought I was over it, but it did come back. And not many people knew about it when it first came back in college. Senior year of college, it was a rough place for me. My disordered eating had come back like really hard, and I just developed habits that like I thought I was over. It was just a terrible time, and like I hurt a lot of people. I hurt a lot of my friends. And I didn't do that just to be like a mean friend. Like I really was just I was just really sick, and I didn't feel like, I felt very alone. And that was just a really hard time because I had a lot of relationships kind of fall apart because of what I was going through. And it was just a really hard year. And so like from the time I had gotten hired for YouthWorks in like November, and then starting in February was when things got really bad, like regarding my mental health and everything. After February, everything just seemed to be like kind of in like a steady decline. And then like it started to get a little bit better, then everything just crashed. And by the time it was like probably April, I was just in a bad place. I was lonely, like emotionally, and pretty much like I felt really alone physically because I just like didn't do much. I would always just go to my room. And I had an internship. So because of my internship for my degree, I felt very separated from like college life at this point, because I would wake up and go to work and go to my internship, and then I would come back, and then everyone would have had classes that I wasn't a part of, or like it was just, I didn't really necessarily feel left out like in that kind of way, like people weren't leaving me out, but it was just like my life had just been different because like I was in basically like an 8 to 5 professional setting, like 3 or 4 days out of the week. So I didn't really have so much interaction like during the school day with my friends. And that did not help my case by any means. I kind of go through this and I'm like, what is happening? I was falling apart. And in the back of my mind, I knew that I had a job waiting for me starting in like the end of May. And I kept thinking, I was just like, Patricia, you have to be okay by May. You have to be good for this job that you're going to do. And I was just like trying to pick up the pieces of myself. Like, you need to be okay. You need to be okay. You need to be okay. Like, no one can know you're sick. No one can know you're struggling or with anything. You just have to be good because you have to go do this job. And so I was just like, I have to be 100% good Christian by the time May 23rd comes around. That was like when our training would start. I get this job. I know it's waiting for me, but my life is currently falling apart, and I know that I have like 2.5 months to be okay, to be able to like do this job. How do I get here? So basically, let's fast forward to May. So May comes, I head to Minnesota, because that's where the training is. And so I was a site director, so I was more of like a supervisor role over, and I had like 3 staff members that I was going to meet like 3 or 4 days later, I guess. So anyway, we're at site director training, and I keep having this thought. I'm just like, I am still not okay. I'm still not like ready. And we get this name tag that we have. It has our schedule on the back of it, and like we have to wear it the whole week. And I write on the back of my name tag, even though I don't feel ready, I'm here, ... And I don't think that I recognized that the rest of that ... was like, so God, what are you going to do with me now? But that was pretty much like the question that was posed at the end of like those the little ellipses I left at the end of that statement on my name tag. That's the last day of site director training. And then this, one of the ladies there, Misty, she is not my boss, but she is up there in the YouthWorks world. And she said, she had a tattoo on her arm, and we were like sitting in this like worship session kind of thing. It was just kind of close out our training as site directors, waiting to welcome our team the next day. And so Misty has this tattoo on her arm, and I believe it says Jeremiah 31:3. And so I go, and they dismiss us to like have a prayer time and like have just like a time to think and ponder and just reflect on what we've learned and like kind of what our summer will look like, and just kind of pray for that. I go and look up this verse that's on Misty's arm, and basically like the like best paraphrase of this is that like it was the promise from the Lord that he will restore us back to like a good place again. So I read this passage. Even like at this time of being in training, I didn't feel better. God, you're gonna either save my life this summer or I won't be. I just won't be. I read that verse, and then I like, usually like in the past I would write like just letters to God because it was easier to me to do that and just like get my thoughts like on paper instead of like trying to think. So I read that letter, or I read that passage, close my Bible, and then take out this sheet of paper that they had given us, and I start to write a letter to the Lord. And for some like context, I was not like, I'm a Christian. Like, I was saved when I was 17 years old. Different story for a different time. But having gone through a lot of things, I just struggling. I really didn't like. I was mad at God. I was like, God, why do I feel like I have lost all of my friends? Why do I feel like I've hurt so many people? And why do I feel like you don't even care? Like, God, you don't seem to be here, and I don't really trust you because I am going through stuff that I thought I was over years ago. And I was so like angry, but just like, I was angry, but I was still just like, ooh, but like, God, what? I know that you're good because I know like there have been times where I've been happy, and like, well, that's a different story. Like, being a Christian doesn't mean you have a happy life. We'll put that aside. But like, anyway, that's how I felt to the Lord. And I was just like, God, I don't like you right now very much. I'm in this like missional setting. I'm in this Christian situation, but I don't feel like the best Christian me, I guess. Honestly, being at that point where I was saying those words, I think was the best place that I could be, because I could have just not talked to God at all. I could have been like, bye God, like, I want to die, so either this summer will save me or it won't, peace out. And like, that's not really like, that's like slightly the mindset that I had, but in the back of my mind I knew I was just like, Patricia, like, part of me had faith that this summer would change my life. So I write this letter, and at this point, like, I didn't really have anything to say to God. It was just like, I was like, God, you know where I've been, you know what this year has looked like for me. And I said, God, if you will have it, I want YouthWorks to be my forever home. And I don't know why I wrote this. I think like back in like November, December, after I had applied and gotten accepted, gotten hired for YouthWorks summer position, I don't know, like something clicked then. It was just like, YouthWorks will be your forever home. Back then, I did not want to have the like faith to say like, oh, I will work at YouthWorks full time, because I was just going to be working for the summer, and the applications for full time had not even gone out until like the middle of the summer. And so there was like a bunch of glimpses of just like, maybe this will be good, like little like pictures of just like, this could happen, or like, I don't know, there was just a bunch of little things that were happening, and I was like, I don't know where my life is going. I had enough of like a future plan for the summer for a few months for me to answer the what's next question, because that is the worst question ever. Yeah, so I'm sitting at this training, writing this letter to the Lord, and I say, God, I want YouthWorks to be my forever home. And I just write that over and over again. I say, I want YouthWorks to be my forever home, forever home, forever home. And then I say, God, even if that's not what you want for me, because at this point I had no context for YouthWorks. Like, I had been there for training for a couple of days, and I like really still didn't grasp what YouthWorks was, what a YouthWorks summer looks like. And so at this point, I'm just like, God, I don't know where you want me. I don't even know if I want to do anything with my life. I had no clue where I was going, because I had just been through so much this like the past school year that I was like, I had lost all hope in myself, in God, and just like in my life. And like, to give you context about like where, like how lost I was and just like how hopeless I was, like I graduated like summa cum laude. Like I graduated with like a 3.91 and like a really good GPA and a lot of good references, a lot of good experience with my internship and just different things that I had done. And I was just like, I really could have had like, I could have gotten into any like MSW program, and I could have done a lot of things. Like logistically, I had the grades and I had like the network to do that. But I just did not have any faith that I would end up anywhere. I did not think that I would get a job. I didn't think that I would do well. I thought I would just go home and then like life would just like end. Like that's a weird complex I had from like high school, that I was just like, when I was a freshman in high school, I didn't think that college would ever happen. When I was a freshman in college, I never thought that real life would happen. And now we're here. So it's looking all right. So I guess I was wrong about that. Anyway, so basically that's kind of the letter that I wrote to the Lord. And I told him, I was just like, God, show me you again, because I don't trust you right now. I don't really think that you're good, and I don't know, like, I was just really unsure. I wasn't like not a Christian, but I was definitely wavering in my faith, and I definitely like had doubts that like the Lord would like take care of me. And so we get into the summer. I still have a lot of like present thoughts of like the disordered eating that I mentioned, because having gone through the year that I had gone through, or really just mainly the semester that I had gone through, there was like, I still had real issues, like real problems that like not a lot of people that like needed to know about it knew about. But I just had a lot of shame, and I was just like, I still feel like crap. I'm going into this setting, meeting new people, doing a lot of like good things, but feeling really crappy inside. We go through training. I meet my team. They're great. I love them. Shout out to Weston, Zig, and Maria, because you guys are the bomb. So Chi-Town. So yeah, I get to Chicago, and the first couple of weeks I'm like, I wouldn't say I was stressed necessarily about like, I don't know, everything was just kind of a blur, because YouthWorks, like, you hit the ground running, and especially at like our site, the Chicago site, was a busy site. Like, we had all full weeks of programming, 1 week of prep, and it was just, we hit the ground running, and I kind of was just distracted about like where I was. And like by this point, my team didn't really know too much about like my history. Like we had talked during training and like gotten to know each other, but we definitely had a lot more to learn about each other as the summer went on. So we're in Chicago, and by like week 3, my team pretty much knows like what I had gone through over the school year, and kind of what my life had looked like for the past several months. And I remember we were sitting in a meeting, and I said to them, I was just like, hey y'all, so I've been talking about like where I've been, what I've been struggling with, and I just want to be honest with you guys and tell you that I am still really struggling. When I said that in that meeting, I kind of went into a little bit of detail with them about like what my thoughts were, and just like kind of what I was struggling with. And it was an interesting dynamic, because they were like, I was their boss in a way, and so there was a weird kind of like place, because I didn't know. I was just like, should I be saying this like to my team? Like, I don't want them to worry about me, like I don't want them to kind of stress about like how I'm doing. I should be like stressing about like how they are and stuff. And so it was just like, it was interesting, but I think that was a really crucial point, not only in our summer as a team, but in my life as just like a human. Because in being open in that moment, kind of letting them know like, I'm struggling with this. We are 3 weeks in, programming is like pretty much like going, and I just don't feel great. And they were really supportive, and they prayed for me, and like I knew that I had like their support, like both in thought and in prayer, and like just in like talking and stuff. And so after this week, things start to like really look up, and I start to have hope. I start to think, okay, maybe this YouthWorks thing can be like a big thing. And after that moment, I had been starting to think of like all the little things that had happened that just really were just like, you are in the right place, you are exactly where you need to be. And at this point, like, I just thought they were just like cool coincidences. Like, for instance, like we got to Chicago, and the guy Ray, who's one of our community partners, he was wearing the same WWJD bracelet. Oh, you can't really see it that well. He was wearing the same bracelet when I said, hey, I'm Patricia. He's like, hey, I'm Ray. And he started talking a little bit. Ray talks a lot, but we all love Ray. And he said, you know, I wear this bracelet. And he holds it up, and I look at my bracelet, I say, okay, God, sure. And at the moment that I saw him with that bracelet, that was the first like night we were in Chicago, and I don't know, I didn't have any like faith that like that was the Lord saying, you are right where you need to be. But over the course of the summer, there were just little things, like there were so many little things that were just like confirmations of just being in the right place at the right time. Whether it was like his bracelet, whether it was just like something that our one of our evening activity partners would say at a service, or like there was just things every single week, like honestly every single day, that I was like, I cannot deny the vivid picture that the Lord is showing me, which is like, Patricia, you are where you need to be. I have you. I am holding you. And don't worry. Just give it to me. Okay, God. Sure. And I don't know at what point of the summer this was, but the Lord was just slapping me in the face. He said, Patricia, I'm gonna put you where I want you to be. And the way that he told me that, like the way that like our daily schedule worked, it was just super busy from the time we woke up to the time we went to bed. So like I didn't often have time to just like sit and do like a real deep Bible study. But like over the course of the summer, I realized like I may not be able to do a cool like soap lesson and make my journal look all nice and stuff, but I do have 5 or 10 minutes to like write a letter to the Lord, just like write a prayer and just kind of get on the same page with him. And so I was like, I can't read my Bible like I want to, but this will only last 8 weeks and I can get back into the swing of things later. Let me figure out what it looks like to kind of have my faith in the context that it fits, as opposed to being upset about like not being able to do what I normally do. Anyway, so I remember writing a couple letters to the Lord, and I was like, God, like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, I don't know where you want me to go. And I was just like, I was confused because the summer was like halfway over, and I was like, what am I going to do after this? And so I write this letter to the Lord, and I'm like, God, I have asked you to put me where you want me to go. I know that you will. And I know that you hear me. I know that you hear me asking you, put me where you want me to go. But I want to make sure that I'm hearing you. And like a couple of days go by, and then like, and I'm just like sitting in some glorious moment of silence that I found somehow in the YouthWorks day. And I was just sitting there, and the Lord, he kind of touched my heart. He said, Patricia, I hear you, and I will gladly put you where I want you to go. I'll put you even where you want to go, but I'm not going to put you anywhere you won't take care of yourself. I was like, God, like dropped the mic on that one. And I said, okay, cool. So at this point, I had been doing well with like my disordered eating like behaviors, and like I hadn't really acted on anything. I still thought about it a lot, but I was just like, no, like I don't want to think about this anymore. I don't want to have the worry of like, if I get stressed again in life, will I resort back to these behaviors? After the Lord kind of touched my heart and told me, take care of yourself, basically, I had this like profound moment where I was just like, okay, like this means that if and when I do get like to a place where like a full-time position or wherever I go, I can't just resort back to this, because the Lord will take something away from you. He will, if it's bad for you, he will put you in a place where you have to give it up. And I didn't want that to happen, because I was like, let's not even play that game. So I was still thinking, still struggling, and I was just like, I have to let go of the crutch of thinking that I can resort back to these behaviors, these destructive behaviors. I have to let go of that. And so maybe a week or two after I'd kind of had this like revelation, I truly gave up the mentality that I could do this again, that I could slip back into my old ways, into my old behaviors, and just think that like, oh, I'm not struggling with it now, but I can later, kind of putting on the back burner. And I was just like, no, Patricia, you're going to let it go. Now you're going to lay it at the feet of the cross, and you're not going to pick it up again, because you know, and you know, the Lord knows, you know, he sees you, he will take something from you if you don't give it to him. And so I was like, okay, fine. Right after like I kind of have this realization, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling joyful. Like I'm hopeful. I have a lot of like spunk, I guess. And the summer, we're hitting that like midsummer point, and I'm really tired, but I'm also just like, but there's something more to this. I still don't feel like ready, but I'm starting to kind of get into the place where like I can see the Lord working, and I can see that it's the Lord. It's not just like good things, good coincidences. It's like God working evidently, and I'm choosing to see how he is blessing like this community, this like staff, me. Like it was just wonderful. And so if things could not get funnier, tell me why the hiring manager of YouthWorks comes to my site with his church group, Hey Barry. And I, at that point, I was just like, okay, God, sure. Like I had kind of like settled my heart, and I was like, God, like I want to be with YouthWorks. Like having gone through this summer, I was just like, I like what YouthWorks does, and I want to be a part of this like family and this team for as long as you will have me. And so by this point, the Lord was just like throwing things like left and right. And then to just bring Barry to like my site for a week. He wasn't the trip leader, but he was like an adult leader on the trip. And I was like, you're funny, God, like, sure. So Barry tells me, he has sent me an email, wanted me to have an interview. And then I actually didn't get that email because my there was some technical difficulties, I guess, but that was good because then he told me, he was like, you should go apply for the other positions that we have open. And I was like, cool. So before his week is over, like I think it was like probably like the Wednesday or Thursday, and I had finished those applications, turned them in, and then like probably a week later had gotten an invitation for another interview. Anyway, long story short, I started the interview process with YouthWorks, and the first interview goes well. I get a second interview. That one was a doozy. I got nervous, but we see it worked out. So all that to say, that's kind of where I was at the beginning of the summer, and kind of how the summer, I don't know, like how I went through how I kind of processed what I had gone through over the summer in the busyness of this like structure that is YouthWorks. But like where I am now is that like I did get hired, and kind of a funny thing is that like, this is, not many people know this, but like in the right before the applications for YouthWorks full-time went out, I had actually gotten accepted to the Peace Corps. So interesting, not many people know that, but I'd gotten invited to the Peace Corps. I had applied, had an interview, and gotten accepted. I got invited, but I did not get like medically cleared, just because of like some other health issues. But anyway, the day before that I found out I got denied for the Peace Corps, the YouthWorks applications had gone out, and I said, great, cool, God, I'll take it. So it was just a clear sign of just like, you need to do this, because it was cool that I got invited to the Peace Corps. That was awesome. And like people were just like, wow, that's really awesome. Like you're like the people that knew were just like, yeah, that's great. Like, I'm so proud of you. And I think in the back of my mind, I was proud of myself to have gotten to be invited to that experience. But ultimately being like medically denied, like that was all the Lord, because he knew that if I had gone to where I was going to go, it was going to be Thailand, which is really cool. But like he knew that if I had gone there, I would not have necessarily the trust or the life change in, like, it was too easy that I had gotten that. And I think that he let me have like those moments of just like, cool, you got invited, like that's really awesome. He let me like kind of think about what that would look like, because I would have gone for 2 years. But I think he ultimately knew, he was like, Patricia, you're not going to take care of yourself there. And I think that he knew it wouldn't have helped my brain necessarily to be in Thailand. It would have been cool, it would have been adventurous, but it would not have been healthy for where I was. And so I was like, okay, that door obviously closed, and YouthWorks is obviously starting to open. Long story short, I do get hired, but I kind of want to share a little bit of story about like the end of training before I realized that I had gotten the job for YouthWorks. So we were at what they call exit ramp, which is like a debrief of the summer for a couple of days. So we're back in Minnesota after we leave from Chicago, and I had made some friends, like some site director friends at site director training at the beginning of the summer that I like had met back at obviously the end of the summer. So I spent a lot of time with Brooke mainly, and I remember at exit ramp she had come up to me during one of the worship sessions that we were having, and keep in mind, like there was so many things, like little things that the Lord had been showing me, like just confirmations. There's like, you are right where you need to be, you're right where you need to be, and even just like, I'll kind of go into what this ring means in a second, but Brooke came up to me and she said, hey, the Lord wants me to come over and tell you a few things. And she said, he wants me to tell you that you are exactly where you need to be. And I was like, because that had been a thought that I was having for like weeks. Like kind of at the half mark of the summer, I was just like, the Lord kind of put in my heart, he was just like, you're exactly where I want you to be. And I was like, okay. And then like for her to come and just say that like 6 weeks or 4 weeks after I kind of had that initial thought, I was like, cool. Thank you, God, for like confirming this like through my friend. And then she looks at me and she says, oh, and like one more thing. The Lord wants me to tell you that you are seen, heard, and known. And at this point, I break down. Like I am sobbing, like, because, wow. Anyway, compose myself. So before senior year of college, junior year, I was starting to go through like a little bit like of depression and stuff, and like felt very lonely, felt very lost, and just like felt very like not really known. Like I was like popular in college, and so like a lot of people knew me. Like I could walk anywhere and be like, hey, like I knew everybody. But it was just something I was striving for, guys. I didn't feel like people knew me. I didn't feel like people really understood me. And I remember writing everywhere. I would write on my fingers, like seen, heard, known. And I put it on my screensaver, and like I had just written it everywhere because it was my cry. I was like, God, I don't feel seen, heard, or known by anybody around me, or even by you. And then fast forward to a year and a half later, we're sitting at exit ramp and Brooke comes up to me and says, the Lord wants me to tell you that you were seen, heard, and known. When I tell you, I was like, oh, it was just the best moment. I was just like, I am exactly where God wants me. And it just like, that moment, like, I wish I could like go back to that feeling, because it was just, there's nothing better than having such a real confirmation that's like, Brooke did not know me junior year of college, so obviously it had to be the Lord telling me through that. It was crazy. So she tells me that, and then I'm just like sobbing, and my team is sitting behind me and they're just like, girl, what is wrong with you? And I'm just like, I'm a mess because the Lord is so good. And like, it was just wild. So Brooke tells me this, and then we kind of just like go, and we the worship session eventually ends, and then my team is just like, Patricia, what is going on with you? And I'm like, Wah. So I go outside with them, we talk, and I tell them the story of this ring that I bought, which I will now tell you. This ring it's obviously really cheap, whatever, but there it is. So when we had gotten back to training, back to exit ramp at the end of the summer, Weston and I had driven a different car, because we had 2 cars. So we drove ours back. We got there a little earlier than Zig and Maria. And so we just like had some time to kill. So we go over to this thrift store called Value Village or something. And I'm a thrift shopper, you know. I love a good thrift find. And so I always go and look at the rings and look at the jewelry, because I'm like, that'd be a fun little find. You'll never know what you get. So I go over to the rings. I'm looking, and I see this ring, and I laugh, because it's obviously a constellation. It's a you can't really see that very well. Anyway, so it's whatever. So it's obviously a constellation, and I'm looking down it, and I say, God, are you gonna show me another cool thing again? So I pull out my phone and I Google, what constellation is this? Or I Google what is the Capricorn constellation, because my birthday's in January. Capricorn, yay. And tell me why this is the Capricorn constellation. And I say, God, you crazy dude. And then I'm like, and I don't want to have full faith yet. I'm just like, this ring won't fit, I can't buy it, like, it's not gonna fit me. So I flag the lady down. She's like, oh, you want to see the rings? And I say, cool. She gets the rings out, I pull it out, put it on my finger, and it fits perfectly. And by this point, I'm just like, you're a crazy dude. Like, it, because the significance of this ring is like, well, one of the significant points is that back in the school year, I had gone to like the store, like a jewelry store, Charming Charlie's, with some of my friends, my roommate, and then some of our other friends, and they all find like constellation jewelry. I buy one for my roommate, and then like they all find, I'm not everyone like gets one, but like they all have one of them available to them. And there was no Capricorn anything, no Capricorn rings, no Capricorn bracelets, no Capricorn necklaces. And I was like, I just want a Capricorn thing. Like, I want to be cool, cute, trendy. So there was nothing. And back then I was just like, well, that sucks. I just won't have my jewelry. I had forgotten about it. And then the school year goes by. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll be fine without this ring, or without this zodiac sign or whatever constellation jewelry. And so standing in this thrift store, I'm just like, there's a reason I did not find my birth sign that day in the store with my friends, because the Lord was going to show me something much bigger through finding this. Because you go to a thrift store, you never find the jewelry you're really looking for. You're just like, oh, that'll do, it's kind of like the one I want, so I'll get it. And the Lord showed me, he was just like, you didn't even realize you came in here to get this. Like, Weston needed a suitcase, so you came in here to do whatever, and you just happened to look and it was there for you. And I was like, wow, that's wild. And so I buy this ring, and I was like, that's really cool. Like, it starts as something just like, wow, like, I really wanted this, and I have it. But the deeper part of this is that, like, at the end of the summer, one of our evening activity partners kept saying, he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. And then when he said that, like a few weeks prior, then when I got this ring, it brought me back to the first moment that we drove into the city of Chicago. And I was in the car with Weston when we drove in from Minnesota. We drove into the city, and I remember I saw a street name that I somehow remembered. I don't know why or how, but I remember seeing a street. I was just like, oh, that sounds familiar. And it clicked in me. I had this overwhelming like feeling of just like, not like sadness, not happiness, not like dread. It was just a mixture of emotions. And I had the realization, it was just like everything in my life, good, bad, ugly, great, awesome, terrible, all began here in this state. I was born 30 minutes away from where we stayed, and everything in my life good and bad and in between, started here. I remember having this like overwhelming anxious feeling at the beginning of the summer, and then kind of like from that moment, once I bought this ring, and everything in the middle just like kind of came together, and I was just like, he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. When I bought this ring and looked at it, like it just struck me like even before I was ever created, the stars, just when it was just stars in the universe and God was just up there doing his thing and had no humans around, he thought of me and he created me thoughtfully and with a purpose. And even before my mom or dad ever existed, or their mom or dad ever existed, the Lord had begun a good work in my life because he thought of me, he desired me, and he has continued to put me right where he wants me to be. And like that, oh, it's just so fun. So I don't like, the story doesn't really have like an end, but I just wanted to like share all of that story, and I hope that it makes sense to how I've gotten to this point. But basically, the Lord will put you where he wants you to go. He'll let you go some places without him. He'll let you venture off, but ultimately the Lord desires to be with us, and he desires for us to know him and to be known by him. And it just, thinking there's no easy way to share the story because it spans over several months. But just like looking back and seeing how the Lord clearly worked through my doubt, worked through my depression, worked through like my disordered eating, and just like worked through the people that I never even thought I would meet. Like I remember sitting in the car with Weston saying Zig and Marie would never have been friends if we were just all on the same campus. Like I potentially would have been friends with all of them, but we would have never been in the group that we were in. And even just to like spend the summer with them in the way that we did, and just kind of getting to do ministry together, and just like seeing how the Lord just like worked so clearly, like I could not have asked for a better experience. And little did 14-year-old me know where I would be now, going from not being able to see the future to being able to be excited about it, like being able to have hope in knowing that like I'm exactly where the Lord wants me to be, whether it feels good or whether it just like feels like terrifying. Like I'm exactly where he wants me to be, and I need to give him that trust and give him that faith to continue to put me where he wants me to go. And the moment that I let go of the stress and of the worry of just like, am I good enough to do anything? Will I even have a life after this summer? Like, will I die? Like, does a good future exist for me? Yes, it does. And I am living in a good present. I have had a hard past, but that hard past has created a good present and is going to create a good future. And not good in the sense of like it feels great and it's easy, but good in the sense that God is in it. And good in the sense that I trust him to put me where he wants me to go. And yeah, that's basically the story. And I'm just in love with where the Lord has me. And I'm in love with who he has kind of helped me to become. Because I am by no means a perfect person, and neither are you. But like I feel good, and I feel like I know the reality of where I'm at, because I struggled a lot with like kind of grasping onto the reality of my present, my past, and where I would be in the future. I didn't think that I was in a good place in my past. I obviously had struggled with things at present, and like in my future I just really was so gone that I just didn't think I would have one. And to know what it feels like to give that trust to the Lord, not knowing what the next 10 years will look like, but knowing that the Lord will put me where he wants me to go in those 10 years. I really like I worry, and I have like stressors of just like, what will I do if this doesn't happen? Like, what will I do here? But it's like I don't have to worry about where I'll sleep at night. I don't have to worry about like if I'll be hungry, because I know that the Lord carries me and he gives me the daily bread and he gives me what I need, and he sees me and knows me, and like he's just so good. And like this story isn't over, and hopefully I'll make more videos and kind of share my journey with you guys. But like really, in all seriousness, like thank you for listening, and like thank you for like going through this video with me. And I hope that this journey, as spoken about, kind of speaks to yours as well. All that to say, thanks so much you guys for listening. And I hope that you know that you are exactly where you need to be, whether you feel like you are, whether you feel ready, Know that the Lord has a plan for your life, and you just kind of got to step into it. But kind of find like what it looks like to make your faith your life, as opposed to making your faith fit into your daily schedule. And that's kind of just where I started. And yeah, I guess this is over now. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.